It is the top of the hour. Hello, everyone. I'm Rose Massengill, Management Analyst with the NADPRP Farm Bill Program. Welcome to the NADPRP Farm Bill FY25 Applicant Webinar. We appreciate your interest in this funding opportunity. Our webinar presenters today are Julie Wallen, Program Director, Peter Cachocho, Grant Specialist, Andrea Pegg, Grant Specialist, and Dr. Lisa Garson, Project Coordinator.
Thanks, Rose. Thanks for that introduction. I'm Julie Wallen, and thanks for joining us today. So let's see here. I want to start, here's our agenda for today. We're going to have plenty of time to take your questions at the end. But before I get started, just as usual, please mute your lines. You can ask questions as we go along in the chat. We might take a few of those as we go along, depending on how quickly we might see them and be able to answer them, but we'll answer all of the questions in the chat at the end. And also at the end, you're welcome to unmute your line and just ask your question verbally so that everybody can hear it. So today's webinar is being recorded, and we'll post the webinar recording and the slide decks on our website probably early next week. It takes us a few days to get the webinar recording posted onto YouTube so that it can be presented as a video that's fairly easy to see on the site. So just give us a few days for that, but it'll be there. And so today I want to just to go over our agenda. I'm going to give you a really short introduction about the NADPRP program. I want to tell you about our 2025 funding opportunity and the funding priorities for this year. And then Peter's going to step us through how to apply, and Andrea is going to talk about guidelines for using NADPRP funds. Lisa's going to step us through what happens after you submit a proposal, and we'll have some discussion and information from you on how to submit a really successful proposal. And then we'll get to a wrap up. And as I said, we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. So thanks for joining us. All right. Oops, wait. Uh-oh. I'm not sure what happened there, Rose, but I somehow went all the way to the end. I hit the wrong keypad. Sorry about that, everybody. This is a really fast overview of our slides. Okay. So about the National Animal Disease Preparedness and Response Program, this is a program created in the 2018 Farm Bill, along with, it's really a trilogy of programs that includes NADPRP and funding for the National Animal Health Laboratory Network and funding for the new National Animal Vaccine and Veterinary Countermeasures Bank. The NADPRP is what we're here to talk about today, and this is a program that allows APHIS to support high-value projects aimed at preventing the introduction and spread of foreign and emerging animal diseases that threaten U.S. agriculture. So the program is unique in a couple of key ways. First of all, the funding is available to states, tribes, universities, livestock producer organizations, veterinary organizations, and other federal agencies. So the program really allows APHIS to partner with a lot of different groups to come up with solutions that address foreign animal disease outbreaks. So we have a competitive process we use for awarding funds. The proposals that are selected for funding are awarded through cooperative agreements, not grants. So you can, if you're an applicant, you can anticipate, and you're selected for funding, you can anticipate some cooperation with APHIS Veterinary Services on your project. Because the Farm Bill provided funding to NADPRP as no-year money, we can offer funding to projects, and our projects typically have a performance period that's anywhere from 12 to 24 months. There's no per project funding limit with NADPRP projects, but our average award is about $225,000. So since we started the NADPRP program and started funding projects in fiscal year 2020, NADPRP has provided over $55 million to support more than 250 projects. All right. So specifically for this year's funding opportunity, APHIS is making up to $16.5 million available to support new projects this year. All of the information that you need is available on the NADPRP website, And we also have an APHIS funding opportunities webpage where you'll find the same information. For those of you who have been applying to NADPRP or are familiar with NADPRP from the past, you'll see that our website is updated this year. We hope that you find those updates really helpful. So really important date for you all to jot down. The deadline for proposals is October 18th, just prior to midnight Eastern time. So make sure that you get your proposal in before then. A few other key things: the proposals that are submitted must directly support one of the FY25 funding priorities. And I'm going to step you through some of those, but these are listed in the funding opportunity announcement. And especially, you need to go look in Appendix 1 of the funding opportunity announcement to read the details and the fine print on what APHIS is looking for within each of those topic areas. Individual applicants can submit multiple proposals. And this year, when we award projects, we expect that those projects will start next summer in July or August. All right, so again, some key dates. October 18th is the application deadline. We will be screening proposals in November, conducting the proposal review process from November through January. It takes us a while to get through the approval process for those of you who are our cooperators and have worked on NADPRP projects before. And as I said earlier, we expect to execute those new awards and get the new project started in July or August of 2025. All right, so now I want to step you through those priority topics. And again, these are fairly similar to things that NADPRP has funded in the past. And please read the details about these. Again, go to our website, look at the funding opportunity announcement. And in that announcement, there's an Appendix 1, and it provides really pretty high-level details on each of these funding priority topics. So NADPRP funds projects to develop, enhance, and exercise state and tribal animal disease emergency response plans. So emergency response plans might be things like vaccination plans, 3D plans, animal movement plans. There's quite a few. We also fund projects that enhance livestock and poultry biosecurity. We support projects to enhance capabilities for depopulation, carcass disposal, and decontamination in the event of a high consequence animal disease outbreak. We fund projects that help support animal movement decisions in a foreign animal disease outbreak and enhance animal disease traceability in outbreak situations. We fund projects to support outreach and education on animal disease prevention, preparedness, and response topics. And we also fund projects that help fund training and exercises for all types of animal ag sector responders. So those would be training and exercises for animal disease outbreak critical activities. So this year, we are also funding projects that will help advance the development of sheep and goat vaccines. And we're also targeting aquatic animal disease and equine animal disease preparedness and response projects. And again, if you go to the funding opportunity announcement in that appendix, you can read a little bit more about each one of those. New this year too, when we met with stakeholders this last year about where NADPRP funding should really be directed to, they want us to really underscore these areas. So in addition to those topic areas I just listed, NADPRP will be directing funding especially toward any kind of multi-state or multi-partner exercises that are aimed at improving animal disease response plans. We're looking for biosecurity projects that will improve biosecurity when transporting animals, biosecurity projects that will help evaluate the relative importance of different pathogen routes of entry onto premises and the effectiveness of mitigation measures. We're also looking at biosecurity projects that are aimed at biosecurity at animal commingling locations and points of concentration, such as livestock markets, and improving biosecurity among niche producers by educating them about diseases of concern and mitigation strategies that they can use. So we're also really focusing this year on training and outreach to support mental health and well-being of animal disease outbreak emergency responders, and training and outreach to accredited non-regulatory veterinarians and/or diagnostic testing laboratories to improve suspected emerging and foreign animal disease reporting. So those are some of our big topics. For all topics, regardless of the proposal that you submit, NADPRP is always looking for proposals and prioritizing funding to proposals that address significant known gaps and problems and areas of concern related to foreign and emerging animal disease prevention, preparedness, and response. So things that we are learning from current outbreaks like highly pathogenic avian influenza, or lessons learned from exercises and training events and talking with stakeholders, what are our current significant gaps relative to preparing and responding to animal disease outbreaks. We're always looking for projects that build on scientifically based innovation, existing tools and techniques, and findings from projects that were previously funded by NADPRP or by other programs. And we always look for projects that address the needs of high risk, underserved, non-traditional, niche, or hard to reach audiences. So these are just some additional considerations as you develop your proposals. All right, just a little clarification to put up front here. As you read our funding opportunity announcement, and as you're listening to our slides today, we use the term livestock, and we use the Animal Health Protection Act's definition of livestock, which is all farm-raised animals. So that does include things that you might not traditionally think of as livestock, such as aquatic species and horses and others. So make sure that depending on the type of stakeholder you are, that you're being inclusive of all farm-raised animals, including non-traditional farm-raised animals. All right, so now I'm going to pass it over to Peter, and he's going to tell you about how to apply for funds. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Julie. Okay. Good afternoon or good morning, everyone. USDA uses the system called Easy Fed Grants to manage corporate agreements, and grants. If you think you would ever apply for any Farm Bill funding, we strongly encourage you to do the following pre-work right away to avoid any obstacles or delay during the application process. First, you should be sure to register for a sam.gov account. This process could take up to 2 weeks for your account to show up in the federal systems, which is why we encourage these steps to be taken ahead of time. Also, please note, there is a mandatory requirement in addition to registering with sam.gov, which is to complete the Financial Assistance Certification Report. Once you have completed those steps, you then have the information you need to create an e-authentication account. The last step is to then establish an Easy Fed Grants account to be able to apply for the opportunity. Just a few friendly reminders. If you are a new applicant, please refer to Appendix 1 under New Applicant Information in the Funding Opportunity Announcement for more information. In addition, please note that sam.gov is behind on processing tickets, and the current turnaround time is around 2 weeks. Therefore, to reiterate again, we highly recommend to register in sam.gov right away. The reason we stress getting these steps done early is because almost every year we have an applicant who calls us frantic on the last day to apply, and either someone in the organization is out of town or they're the only person selected as a certifying official to submit the application, or someone waited until the last week to get their sam.gov set up and didn't fully process in time. We have no ability to help these folks out, unfortunately, during those type of situations, and it's sad to see potential applicants not able to apply. Next slides. Here, I'll be talking about the non-federal applicants. This slide contains non-federal and federal applicants. This slide contains links with resources to assist in learning the Easy Fed Grant system. For federal applicants, you must submit your application via email to the NADPRP email address. When submitting application attachments, please refer to the Funding Opportunity Announcement. Appendix 2, Tips for Applicants for further information. Requesting access to Easy Fed Grants requires a few prior steps as mentioned on the previous slides. The first step is to have a USDA Level 2 login.gov account, and the second is then request access to Easy Fed Grants. For help with these steps, you can visit the websites listed on the slides, which can also be found in the funding opportunity announcement, Appendix 1, New Applicant Information. I am now going to talk about what to include in an application. For non-federal applicants that require documents to be included in an application package are the work plan, financial plan, the standard forms 424 and 424A. The work plan and financial plan templates are strongly encouraged to be used and can be found on the NADPRP website. All documents must be submitted as PDF. Federal applicants can email their work plan and financial plans to the NADPRP email address. Here, as mentioned earlier, the work plan can be found in the NADPRP website. We strongly encourage that the template be used. The work plan is the body of your proposal, and the template gives detailed instructions for all the required information to include in your work plan. If the template is not used, all information requested in the template must still be included with the proposal and should align with the review criteria. Financial plan. The template is an Excel file and steps you through how to lay out your budget. The work plan objectives should align with the financial plan, as well as keeping in mind that the cost categories or budget categories will also need to match up with the standard form 424A. It is important to ensure that the budget amounts are all aligned and consistent between the work plan, financial plan, SF 424 and 424A. Please note that objectives are broken out into separate columns in an effort to easily and effectively remove amounts if reviewers decide not to fund certain objectives. Calculating indirect costs can be confusing because different funding legislations have different requirements. For the Farm Bill NADPRP funding legislation, Congress has written that all eligible applicants are only eligible for claiming up to 10% of indirect costs on the total project cost. If you are an applicant that has other corporate agreements with USDA APHIS with different guidance on how to calculate your costs, that is because it is under a different appropriations bill. I will go over the basic how to determine which formula to use for our application to the Farm Bill NADPRP funding opportunity. However, more information can be found in our guidelines for use of funds, documents, and examples in Appendix A. First, you may claim indirect costs if you have a current negotiated indirect cost rate agreement with a cognizant agency, NECRA for short, or if you don't have a NECRA, you may claim what is called de minimis. If you do have a current NECRA, you need to make sure that your applied NECRA rate total for indirect costs isn't lower than applying the Farm Bill 10% gap. If your rate calculation is lower, then you will need to use that one. Since the Farm Bill congressional language says the 10% gap is on total project cost, the mathematical formula to use is the total direct cost times 11.11%. If you do not have a NECRA and would like to claim the de minimis rate of 10%, you are limited to what you can apply the 10% to. These are called modified direct costs and include all direct salaries and wages, applicable fringe benefits, materials and supplies, services, travels, subawards, and some contracts up to the first $25,000 of each subaward and subcontract. The total amounts for this cost are then multiplied by 10%, not 11.11%, to be in compliance with the CFR guidelines. I am now going to turn it over to Andrea to go over a few general guidelines for using the NADPRP funds. There you go, Andrea.
Thanks, Peter. Okay, I'm trying to forward this. Okay. This is a list of the most common allowable costs. More details and definitions of each item listed can be found in the Guidelines for Use of Funds document posted on the NADPRP website. In general, when trying to decide if a cost might be allowable or not, it should be reasonable, allocable, and necessary for the project completion. Keep in mind that although an item may be listed as allowable, it must still be reviewed and approved by APHIS. This is a list of the most common unallowable costs. Again, more details and definitions of each item listed can be found in the Guidelines for Use of Funds document posted on the NADPRP website. If you have specific items that are questionable, please be sure to reach out to APHIS to discuss further. There is no required cost sharing or matching for the NADPRP cooperative agreements. If a recipient does include cost sharing in their budget and it is accepted by APHIS, then the commitment of funds will become legally binding and it must be reported on the standard form 425. To sum up the guidelines for using NADPRP funds, all costs in a work plan must be reasonable, necessary to the project goals, and should leverage existing recipient resources such as personnel, vehicles, and computers where possible to achieve cost effectiveness. So while a trip for the project team may sound like a fantastic idea, it's probably not going to be considered reasonable. Julie will now provide information on submitting proposals regarding depopulation projects.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Andrea. So in the chat, we've put a reference to our guidelines on using NADPRP funds, and this is also available on our NADPRP website. There's a special section here on the use of funds for livestock depopulation projects. NADPRP absolutely supports projects to support, train people to use and explore methods, evaluate methods related to livestock depopulation when that activity has to be performed as part of outbreak response efforts in an effort to halt the spread of disease. So we fund projects focused on developing and evaluating methods. And if that's the kind of project you might be interested in submitting, those projects do not have to be, they're not required to be assessing methods that are listed as preferred in the AVMA guidelines for the depopulation of animals. However, if you're going to submit a project focused on training, those projects must focus on methods that are listed as preferred in the AVMA guidelines for the depopulation of animals. So again, this is given in more detail in our guidelines on use of funds, regardless of the type of livestock depopulation project you might be submitting. If you're submitting in that topic area, the proposal should describe how animal welfare concerns will be addressed, such as an IACUC review. And that's all I have on that. Can you advance the next slide? Great. I think Lisa's going to go next. Dr. Lisa Garson is going to tell you all about the proposal review process and give you some tips on how to submit a successful proposal.
Thank you, Julie. In this last section, we will look at the proposal review process, including tips to help improve the success of your proposal. It is important when you develop your proposal that you understand how proposals are reviewed and evaluated. The proposal review process starts with an initial screening. APHIS verifies that the basic eligibility requirements are met as outlined in the funding opportunity announcement, including that all required documents are submitted, that the proposal was submitted by an eligible entity, and the purpose of the project falls under the umbrella of what can be funded through NADPRP. Once a proposal passes the initial screening, it is sent to a review panel that is comprised of subject matter experts. Reviewers complete their individual assessment and then meet to discuss the proposal, where the review panel agrees on a ranking and a funding recommendation. Our reviewers take their responsibility very seriously. Last year, we received 180 proposals for the $17 million available in funding. This meant that the reviewers had some difficult decisions to make. Once all review panels have concluded their work, a final projects list is submitted for approval, which must go through multiple steps in the USDA approval process. After the project list receives final approval, APHIS announces and publishes the awarded project list, and all applicants will receive an individual email notifying them of the award decision for their proposal. Last year, of the 180 proposals submitted, 74 projects were awarded in the fiscal year 24 cycle, giving the proposal acceptance or the award rate that year of approximately 41%. We select subject matter experts in all areas of animal disease preparedness and response, including subject matter experts within APHIS and subject matter experts outside of federal government. We do not use computers or AI to evaluate proposals. Real people review and evaluate the proposals. The experts review the proposals multiple times and often with different groups of people. When you write your proposal, it is important to keep in mind the scoring criteria that they will use. Here are the 5 main scoring criteria. One of the first things that a reviewer will assess is how well the proposal aligns with the funding priority listed in the funding opportunity announcement. Meeting this criteria is essential. Does the proposal have a clear, strong, and direct support for a funding priority topic or topics? These were mentioned earlier by Julie in this webinar and are described in detail in Appendix 1 of the funding opportunity announcement. The second main criteria is how well the proposal addresses a critical need or gap related to a funding priority topic. This is not a requirement for a proposal. However, proposals that address a critical need or gap are prioritized. Reviewers also assess whether the proposal is expected to have a high feasibility of success. Does the proposal have a well-organized plan of action? Is the approach sound? Does the applicant have sufficient skills and experience or a plan to collaborate or gain those needed skills? And is the timeline realistic? The impact and value of the project's deliverables and outcomes to stakeholders is important to convey to the reviewers. In the impact and value section of your work plan, take the time to clearly describe the expected impact and value of your proposal. Keep in mind that reviewers consider whether the deliverables and outcomes can be used by other states, tribes, or other stakeholders. The last main criteria is cost effectiveness. Reviewers are conscious of spending the limited funds available, which becomes even more important as our program continues to grow and we receive more proposals each year. As you develop your proposal, consider whether costs are reasonable, are existing resources leveraged, are there efforts for any cost sharing or cost savings? And now a few helpful tips for your application package. Make sure your application is complete and all documents are submitted by the application due date. We suggest the use of a descriptive title. The award description, which does have a word limit, is one of the first sections reviewers will read. It may be helpful to write the award description last, after the rest of the proposal, including objectives and activities, have been clearly defined. Reviewers find it helpful to read a well-organized and complete work plan. The work plan does need to be 25 pages or less. And then review your documents for funding and time period consistencies. Before submitting your application package, check to make sure that the funding level is the same between the work plan, financial plan, and the SF 424. Also make sure that the performance period is the same between the work plan and the SF 424. It may be helpful to see the type of projects that NADPRP has funded in the past. We have funded project lists on our website that you can view. Also, we are expecting to post on our website this September a link to our new program dashboard. The dashboard will allow you to view all past and current awarded NADPRP projects. In the dashboard, you will be able to filter by priority topic, commodity, organization type, year, and state. To tailor your search, you will also be able to search by keyword. The dashboard will be a great resource for you to search past and currently funded projects, so please watch our website for that link in the next month. To help make your proposal stand out, again, one of the first items that reviewers examine is how well the proposal supports a funding priority topic. Proposals that strongly and clearly align with the funding priority topic are favored by reviewers. Reviewers have a history of selecting high-value, low-cost projects. Reviewers understand that sometimes projects have a higher funding level, but they're also looking for a high value relative to those costs. Reviewers are subject matter experts, but they are not mind readers. Proposals that do not clearly describe the deliverables or how they will benefit a stakeholder tend to get ranked lower. Make sure that the objectives and deliverables are clearly described and how a deliverable will benefit or be shared with stakeholders. Reviewers like to see collaboration and consultation with different stakeholders and experts who may help a project succeed. If you plan to have a collaborator, or if you've consulted with other groups and they support your proposal, have letters of support in your application package. This shows reviewers that you've had those conversations and those partners or collaborators are on board with your proposal. Reviewers also like to see proposals that leverage or build on critical needs. Throughout your proposal, please don't assume that you can shortcut information. For example, if your proposal addresses a critical gap or need, don't leave reviewers guessing or making assumptions. Briefly explain to the reviewers the identified gap or need and how your proposal will mitigate that gap. Strive for a proposal that has a clear description and how activities will lead to the deliverables. After reading the proposal, the reviewer should have a clear understanding of what you plan to do and the product or deliverable that you will develop. Another item that reviewers look for is how the information will be shared. Again, spell this out for our reviewers. If you are creating a product, what is the product? Who will it be shared with? When will it be shared and how? Include any presentations to key stakeholders, whether it is a webinar, a national conference, or community-based outreach. Explain to the reviewers how the information will be disseminated. If you are proposing a project that parallels something that already exists, clearly explain to the reviewers so you know what's already out there and how your proposal stands apart. Again, one of the first criteria for reviewers is how well aligned the proposal is to a funding priority as described in the funding opportunity announcement. If the proposal topic is tangential to the funding priority topics, reviewers will likely not spend much time on the proposal. The cost-benefit value of the proposal is important. Reviewers tend to recommend multiple lower-cost projects rather than one large, expensive project when the proposal value and qualities are similar. Reviewers shy away from proposals that are too expensive compared to the overall benefit. Expensive projects are funded, but the value and benefit should align with the higher cost. Another mistake we see is that a proposal really well describes a problem, but fails to clearly describe how the proposal will help to mitigate that problem. Another common concern is that reviewers are not convinced that the stakeholder or beneficiaries will use the project deliverables. It may be helpful to bring in a consultant from your local industry group or other experts, depending on your audience, for that reality check to ensure you are proposing a deliverable that is needed and will be used. And don't forget about the basics. We have had proposals submitted that are well written, but fail to identify the species the proposal will impact. Please read the work plan template carefully to ensure you're not missing any information that the reviewers need. We want your proposal to get full consideration. That concludes the proposal review process. I'm going to pass this back to our director, Julie Wallen, to wrap things up.
Thanks a lot, Lisa. That was great. And thanks for the questions that are coming in. I'll start to address those when we get to the end, and we're almost there now. So a couple of things to just recap, really important messages for today. As Peter was going over, there's a couple of steps if you're a brand new NADPRP applicant, and especially if you don't work in an organization that does a lot of applying for cooperative agreements, or if you've never applied for funding with USDA before, please make sure that you register in SAM, you have a login.gov account, and you have an Easy Fed Grants account. And also, when you go to submit your proposal in Easy Fed Grants, you're going to need to submit it, and somebody else in your organization will also need to push an approve button. So just as Peter described, every year we get a handful of applicants who wait till 5 p.m. or later on the day of the deadline, and they realize that the one other person they needed to help them with Easy Fed Grants is not there, or they just didn't hit one of these steps very soon. And I really want to emphasize that you can do these steps today. You don't need to wait. Even if you're on the fence, you're not even sure you're going to apply, the steps to do those are really easy. And so if you think you might apply, go ahead and do them. And if you have any trouble, please reach out to us on the NADPRP team. I'm going to give our contact information at the end. So a few other reminders: if you're claiming indirect costs, double check your calculation. We really appreciate that. Our guidelines for use of funds has not only an explanation of how to calculate those, but it gives some examples. And as Peter mentioned, it is different for these Farm Bill NADPRP awards because of the way that Congress wrote the legislation that created the NADPRP program. Double, triple check that you have the same, the amount of funding you're requesting is the same in your work plan and your financial plan and then your SF424 forms. And those forms you're going to fill out in Easy Fed Grants. Every year we get a handful of proposals where there's different numbers on every different document. We're not quite sure what to do. Check that your start date and the start of your performance period is also the same in your work plan and in your SF424. Read the instructions on the financial plan carefully, list the costs for each specific objective, and align those objectives with your work plan. And as both Peter and Lisa mentioned, the work plan template really provides a wealth of information on the kinds of information that the reviewers are really going to be looking at when they review your proposal. Also, lastly, just make sure that you give us your correct contact information so that we can reach you. All right. So your best resource is to go to our website. Again, you can look at the NADPRP website. You can also go to the APHIS Funding Opportunities webpage. All of the information that we've covered today is in there. If you have other questions after you've had a look at those, please feel free to reach out to us. We're very glad to help you. We don't want you to struggle if you're unsure of whether you should submit an application or you get to a part of the documents and you're not sure what to do. Contact us at vs.nadprep@usda.gov. Everyone on our team that's on the call here today monitors that mailbox. We will get back to you soon. So that is everything I think I have for today. And now we're ready for questions. So the first thing I'm going to do is just ask anybody who would like to ask a question. You can go ahead and unmute your line and ask it. And while you're doing that, I'm going to have a look at what's coming through the chat. Okay, this is a good question about food and beverages. It was mentioned that food and beverages are not allowed in the financial plan. Does this apply to scenarios where simulation exercises are developed and evaluated, where you bring participants together for simulation exercises? Also in qualitative studies where you bring people together in a focus group? Yeah, it does apply. And yeah, that was a decision that we supported in USDA at the beginning of the NADPRP program. We get exceptional numbers of requests for food and beverages, so that's not allowable. Let's see. And again, I'm going to look through what's in the chat, but please feel free to unmute your line and ask a question verbally. There are a few questions in here that have been responded to. M. Salim about novel vaccines for emergent disease in poultry. If that if my response in the chat didn't answer your question, please unmute your line and let me know. Similarly. And the rental of laboratory space, again, Maria Font, if you needed more information on that, please feel free to unmute your line. All right, does anybody have any further questions? It's pretty quiet today. We usually get a few speakers. All right, well, thanks everybody very much. If you have a question later on, please reach out to us. Again, our email address is shown here. We'll respond to you quickly. If you have any questions, just let us know. And again, encourage you to go to our website to look for more information. Give us about a week to put this webinar recording and the slides onto our website, so those are available to you as well. And everybody have a great rest of your day.